The Jeffrey Epstein case is a rabbit hole of unanswered questions and deeply disturbing allegations. Today, we're not going to relitigate the case itself. Instead, we're diving into the bizarre world of theories that's just exploded around it. We're going to try to decode the strange language and some pretty unsettling claims that are floating around online to see how these stories even get started. Now, I have to say this up front. The crimes involved here are horrific, and this is in no way an endorsement of these theories, but a look at how they're built.
And this right here, this quote kind of sets the stage for everything we're about to get into. It captures the feeling that's driving so many of these theories. This idea that what we see as reality isn't the real story at all. It suggests that to really get what's going on, you have to be willing to believe that the truth is hidden behind some kind of elaborate fake-out. This is our jumping-off point.
So, at the very heart of this whole thing, you've got emails and documents filled with language that is, well, to put it lightly, just plain weird. This is not normal communication. It reads more like a puzzle, you know? And that confusion, that's exactly where all the speculation begins.
Yeah, trying to figure this stuff out is tricky. You've got these almost poetic, bizarre phrases, like an island being like Damascus. What does that even mean? Then you have constant mentions of totally normal things, like pizza and jerky, mixed in with these really specific technical purchases. This weird mix of strange and ordinary creates the perfect breeding ground for theories, which, of course, leads to the big counterargument. Are people just seeing patterns that aren't really there?
And that brings us to one of the biggest pillars of these theories, this idea that common, innocent-sounding words are actually a secret code for something much, much darker.
Okay, so the theory goes like this. When the documents mention cheese pizza or grape soda, they are definitely not talking about lunch. The thing that really fuels this argument is phrases like wok jerky, which, that doesn't even make grammatical sense, right? Theorists argue that proves it has to be code for something else. In this case, allegedly, for moving a person from one place to another. So that really is the question, isn't it? For some people, this is a glaringly obvious code. But for others, it's just powerful people talking in a weird way. And we're all just reading way too much into it. But seriously, how do you wok jerky? That question just kind of hangs there. Now, beyond the coded language, the speculation is also fueled by stuff that's a lot more tangible. A perfect example is a huge purchase of sulfuric acid, and it's the timing of this order that is just so unnerving. We're talking about an order for 6 55-gallon containers. That is 330 gallons of industrial-strength acid. And the most important part? It was placed almost immediately after the 2019 sex trafficking indictment came out. You can see why that timing alone would raise a massive red flag for, well, pretty much everyone. And just like everything else in this story, there are two totally different ways to look at this. The sinister interpretation is pretty immediate and visceral. The acid was ordered to destroy evidence, or something much worse. But the plausible explanation is that it was just for a reverse osmosis water treatment plant on the island, which is a totally legitimate industrial use. To really get this debate, you kind of have to know what this chemical is. Sulfuric acid is this powerful agent that basically just dehydrates and chars organic stuff. And while, yeah, it's absolutely used for things like water treatment, those very same properties are why it also shows up in much, much darker scenarios. And this quote right here just sums up all the skepticism perfectly. It's all about priorities. When you're facing charges of that magnitude, is maintenance on your water system really the first thing on your to-do list? The timing just doesn't feel right to a lot of people. This brings us to a really fascinating and frankly kinda unsettling idea that's used to frame this whole affair. It's the concept that maybe, just maybe, on some level we choose not to see the truth. The phrase is mundus vult decipi. It's Latin, and it means the world wants to be deceived, so let it be deceived. It's this ancient idea that suggests people often prefer a comfortable lie over a harsh, difficult reality. And this idea might just explain why so many people push back against these theories. Is it just easier to believe the acid was for a water plant and the emails are just nonsense? Because the alternative, that the sinister interpretations are true, might be a truth that's just too horrifying for most of us to even think about. Okay, and this is where we have to tread carefully. Because the theories that are talked about in the source material, they escalate from weird codes and suspicious purchases into some truly dark and extreme territory. Theorists point to emails they say reference torture. They connect rituals to ancient figures like Moloch, a deity associated with child sacrifice. And all of this culminates in the most shocking claims of all, that these activities involve ritual sacrifices and even cannibalism.
This is the absolute deepest, darkest end of the conspiracy pool.
This quote from the source, wow. It's said with this chilling level of certainty. It's not a question, it's not a possibility, it's presented as a firm belief. It really represents the absolute peak of a belief system that has gone way beyond analyzing emails and into a conviction about some kind of systemic, ritualistic evil.
So you have to ask, how could something so monstrous possibly be hidden? Well, the theory for that is something called predictive programming. This is the claim that these horrific acts are actually hidden in plain sight, seeded into pop culture, talk shows, memes. The goal, according to this theory, is to desensitize all of us through mockery so that the real thing seems too absurd to be true if it ever comes out. But for those who believe, the argument always comes back to this simple idea. You know, the old duck test. They argue that if you have weird coded language, suspicious purchases, and a whole network of powerful people, you shouldn't overthink it. You should probably just believe what the evidence seems to be screaming at you.
And that leaves us right here. We're faced with all these bizarre circumstances, and we have to decide, is it a duck? Are all these strange pieces of evidence actually pointing to a horrifying, coordinated evil? Or is that truth so unbearable that, like that old Latin phrase says, we subconsciously choose to be deceived? The answer, it seems, is still buried somewhere in the code.